In D&D, bards set out with a quick wit and a sharp tongue to face down foes, inspire their allies, and shape the world around them through sheer charisma. They might be the most versatile class in the game, capable of fulfilling many roles within the party. Whether they are playing an instrument, singing, dancing, reciting poetry, giving speeches, or any other kind of performance you can imagine, they blend artistry into adventuring to make magic. If you like versatility, or if you're the type of player who understands that playing a supporting role can actually increase your time in the spotlight, or you like to take the lead outside of battle and be the face of the party when navigating social situations, then this class that can heal or hurt with a single word, command, confuse, or captivate in an instant might be the answer to what kind of Dungeons & Dragons character you want to play next. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Doyle, and this is the Verdigris Table, where I'm going to walk you through step-by-step character creation so you can make an awesome bard for your next Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I would love it if you would take a second to let me know down in the comments where you're from and how much experience you have playing D&D. I love watching this community grow with people from all over the world. If you're experienced, you might find some cool ideas and tips in this one, but I'm making the video as beginner-friendly as possible for all the folks out there who are just getting into this hobby, or maybe who have been away for a while. Comments obviously help the channel, as does hitting like and subscribe, but I'm also genuinely interested in hearing from you and seeing people connecting with each other down there. So please let us know where you're from while I tell you a little bit about today's sponsor. Into the AM makes comfortable, fashionable clothing, and they've got all your basics covered from head to toe. Though I like a good solid, or the occasional flannel, I am very partial to their graphic tees. Check out these bold and beautiful designs, and there's always new ones coming in. So I'm sure you can find something, or, build yourself a 3-pack that you're really going to love. If you're looking to elevate your wardrobe, using my affiliate link is going to save you some money while helping me out a little bit. Get yourself something nice. All right, let's build a bard. We're going to be working out of the Players Handbook that came out in 2024, which is like the new baseline for Dungeons & Dragons. A character built using this book is going to fit seamlessly into 95, maybe 99% of D&D games going on right now. I got this beautiful alternative cover version from my neighborhood's friendly local game shop, but I got a link down below where you can order a copy online for the cheapest price around as well. You don't need to buy anything to get started, but if you're getting into the game, the PHB is going to be your first purchase. I'm partial to having a physical book for a lot of reasons, but I've also bought the digital version on DNDBeyond to make it easy to walk you through this character creation process here. A lot of us end up purchasing the PHB both ways. Again, I like having a book that nobody can alter or take away my access to. I also just like physically having it in my hands, flipping pages, but you may want to make your first investment be the PHB on DNDBeyond. Player's choice. Okay, let's dive in and build a bard character sheet. Now, I love bards, and there are a lot of different ways you can go with them, but today we are setting out to build this guy from the art in the PHB as our inspiration. We're going to do standard character creation. If you are brand spanking new, maybe you want to tick this box and get yourself the wizard's wizard, to give you some tips about what's going on. I like to look at the suggestions first. Parhak. Pike Riamiar. Pike Riamiar. Pike. I know a pike. Don't go nuts on this. Lo-fi's. Done. Worth the wait. Lo-fi's the bard. Okay, so on this first page, if you don't know, or your dungeon master hasn't told you what is kosher at your table, the short answer is probably none of this stuff. That also goes for partnered content, and that is not a judgment on any of these things. If you want homebrew at your table, you like the old rules, legacies and junk drawers stuff, expanded rules, I'm sure there'll be more soon that we're going to be talking about. And hold on, partnered content some of the coolest stuff out there, in my opinion, but it might not be what your dungeon master's comfortable running. It also might be a totally different vibe. If I show up with some like creepy crow owl person and the person next to me is rolling up with some Rick and Morty character, and the dungeon master had a very like vanilla Forgotten Realms kind of concept in mind, there's going to be some tension there, a clash. So turn off all of that stuff. We're going to leave all of the rest of this stuff on for our demonstration today. Your dungeon master might have some ideas, especially about XP versus milestone advancement type. I would say milestone's a little bit easier and more popular. Same goes for rolling hit points versus fixed hit points. I doubt you're going to be using encumbrance. Otherwise, this is all a conversation for your dungeon master, but if you do what I've done here, you're probably okay. Let's get into the good stuff. We are building ourselves a bard. Dun dun dun. Add class. Now, right out of the gate, we get a lot for being a bard. We are focused on charisma. Charisma is not just attractiveness, as it's portrayed sometimes. I think of it as like willpower, animal magnetism. There's a bunch of different ways to think about it, but will is a good stand-in for charisma. I mean, charisma is a good stand-in for charisma. For a hit die, we're using a D8, which is pretty good for a full caster. A lot of folks are walking in with more hit points, but we're not really looking to take a lot of damage. That's not our strong suit. There's ways to lean into that and tinker with our bard to make them better at that, but D8 is okay. Saving throws, dexterity, possibly the most popular one in the game, or popular is one way to say it. Most likely to come up is another. Charisma, you're going to see a lot less often, but when it does come up, oh boy, it's usually something big and you're going to want to make it. For skill proficiencies, we are getting any 3 skills in the book. 3 skills is a lot of skills to get from your class, but no restrictions. Anything you want to be good at, we can be good at. Weapons, on the other hand, we're proficient at simple weapons. We can get martial from a subclass later if we really want to go that route, but we can only use simple weapons. Probably not what we're going to be focused on, using weapons. We also get 3 musical instruments to be proficient at. We only can use light armor. Again, we can mitigate that a little bit with subclass choice if we want a frontliney kind of melee character. Today we don't. I mean, looking at this guy, he's not up there in the mix. Okay, so starting equipment, this is going to come up again later, but leather armor, 2 daggers, a musical instrument of your choice. So I will point out, we can play 3 musical instruments. That doesn't mean we own them or have them strapped to our back. We're starting out with 1 musical instrument. Plus, I'm going to take the Entertainers Pack and 19 GP. Or, alternatively, you can get 90 gold pieces, go to the PHB, spend that out. If you really like digging down, getting tinkery, I usually recommend, especially for new folks, take the starting equipment. This is already the point where we're going to really start focusing in on what kind of a bard are we. And music is such a deeply embedded cultural thing, right? From instruments to melody to the scales that we're using. But we're not going to go that deep into like scales, chromatics and whatever, majors, pentatonic, all the way, baby. But we're going to do something a little unordinary, and we're going to jump over to species. This order really works because class is the most informative to what your character is going to be like, followed by background, followed by species in a lot of ways, as far as the mechanics go. But our species is going to tell us, at least in this case, like, what kind of instruments am I good at? What kind of a person am I? What kind of culture am I coming from? Now, background could be doing that more than species, right? Nature, nurture, and also, you know, who knows, if you're in a cosmopolitan setting, right? Maybe every species in the world is sharing a similar culture, so it's your background that's really going to dial that in more or less. But today we are taking a Tiefling. So Tieflings are coming from the lower planes, the Fiendish realms, the hells, and various other lower planes. Either we were born there, or I see a lot more likely there's some like touch or ancestry or bloodline, and we are from the material plane. We're from baseline reality, but somehow there's some fiendishness either in our family tree, or maybe some sort of magical cross-pollination has happened. That being the case, we're kind of like baseline a different humanoid creature to start. So we could be a tiefling from like gnomish stock, right? And that would make us small. I'm gonna go medium. Our tiefling looks like medium sized to me, maybe just perspective in that picture. Human, maybe half elfy. Speed 30 feet, baseline, dark vision, check. Which is nice to have. A lot of species have dark vision, so it's easy to kind of take it for granted. But this allows us to see in darkness. We're still going to make perception checks with disadvantage in pure darkness, but at least we can see we're not purely blind. So dark vision, nice to have. Now we get to the place where we're making a choice. There are different kinds of creatures, fiendish legacies, on those lower planes. And I was hemming and hawing there because I don't really want to turn this into a deep dive into the Dungeons and Dragons cosmology, but the abyss is demons, right? Some wizard is trying to capture a demon and trap them in a circle to use them as some sort of arcane battery or something. So demonic versus infernal are devils. These are the fellas that you're going to meet on the crossroad to make a deal with to obtain a golden violin, perhaps, or get pretty nasty at blues guitar. So I'm leaning towards infernal. It sits within the headcanon that I have created already for our character based on that picture. Chthonic, which I'm not even comfortable saying out loud, is more Cthulhu-y in my mind. It's sort of this like neutral, just fundamentally other evil species. They'll kind of choose sides to their benefit within the blood war, which is the demon versus devil war. Again, I'm not trying to go into deep lore here, but these creatures don't necessarily like each other. It's not one big happy family here. Chthonic is also, you're gonna find a lot of creatures who are interested in like secret knowledge and esoteric yada yada yada. So this is a cool option too, but we're taking infernal today. One, because of our character's vibe, our backstory. I don't know if it was us or maybe Granddaddy met a devil, not a demon, but a devil. My players have learned this the hard way. What's the difference between devil and a demon is that you can make a deal with the devil. A lot of my players are mad because they've been stabbed in the back by a demon, but it's their fault for trusting them. So Infernal Legacy. Maybe Granddad met the devil, a devil, at a crossroads to get good at music, and a couple generations later, here we are. Maybe Daddy, maybe the deal was the firstborn is going to be a tiefling, and that's us. The Infernal Legacy connects tieflings not only to Gehenna, but also the Nine Hells and the raging battlefields of Acheron. Do with that as you will. It's cool. I'm not hating. I'm just saying this is maybe exactly what's going on in your Dungeon Master's world if we're in Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, but also maybe not. Horns, spikes, tails, golden eyes, and a faint odor of sulfur or smoke are common physical features of such tieflings, most of whom trace their ancestry to devils. So pretty dope. That's what a lot of tiefling players are into right out of the gate. What I like is that vibe, but also now we get some fiendish legacy spells. And this is why we're over here. One of the reasons we're over here before we solidify our class. When you choose your fiendish legacy and at levels 3 and 5, you learn a spell as shown in the table. So we're going to use charisma to start. And the first, we have resistance to fire damage, which is nice. Fire damage comes up a decent amount. We're more likely to be dealing it. than receiving it, I think, in a typical D&D party. But if we get caught in the blast radius of the wizard's fireball or something, we'll be happy to have it. We also know the Firebolt cantrip, which is a pretty decent damage cantrip to have. At level 3, we're getting Hellish Rebuke, which is awesome. At level 5, we're getting Darkness, which is maybe a little more situational. We've got to be careful how we use it. We don't want to blind the rest of the party and ourselves and act like we are helping. Seen that. But yeah, we're going to be using Charisma, our main skill, our main ability score, which is going to be determining the rest of our spellcasting abilities and modifiers and saves. We're going to keep it Charisma. Otherworldly Presence. We're also getting the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which is maybe a lesser version of Prestidigitation, but like, you want to do some cool magic-y stuff? Thaumaturgy is your low-level magic. I'm going to change the color of my eyes. I'm going to make a wisp of smoke. I'm going to make the candles flicker dramatically and the windows open. That's Thaumaturgy. We are also getting languages from our ancestry. Now, I am tempted to take stuff that's not on here right now because they've simplified things or they've standardized things, whereas the languages of the other planes are no longer really on here to start. There's other ways to get them. But right now, I am not going to speak the language of devils, and that makes sense. Maybe I've never met a devil. I'm the most devilish person I've ever known, me and other fellow tieflings here. So everybody's got common to start. I am really intrigued by common sign language. One, it's cool that we're getting, whatever, more inclusive, different kinds of speech, quote unquote, to choose from. But two, just if I know sign language and another character knows sign language, then we can communicate silently over distances as long as we can see each other. And characters and creatures that don't know sign language are not going to know what's going on. Beyond that, I always like taking Draconic. This is a point where I might be going to my dungeon master and being like, hey, what languages might be useful going forward in this campaign? If I take Giant, and I'm never going to see, let alone speak to a giant for the entire campaign, like, oh, maybe this is a wasted choice. If I was raised by giants, cool, maybe I want this. If there's a character in the party who speaks giant, maybe we're palling around with a Goliath barbarian who took giant, then yeah, cool, giant could come in handy. But I like to touch base with the dungeon master. They might not give you an answer, one, because they don't know yet, or two, because they're kind of keeping their cards close to their chest, and that's not a bad thing, but it's an option. That being said, dragons are dope. Dungeons and Dragons. If we meet a dragon, I'm ready to talk to one. There's also a lot of like magical things that get written in Draconic. Okay, so we chose a tiefling. Let's go back to class for a second. I told you we did that so we could figure out what kind of instruments to play, but that didn't inform us too much. I think we're just like in the cosmopolitan society, faux medieval, forgotten realmsy stuff. I am going to take... I want to take a fiddle, which... There she is. I'm going to take a fiddle because that's what I'm playing in the image, and that's what I'm going to walk out of here like equipped with. But I can play all sorts of instruments. I can play 3 instruments. I'm going to take pan flute because it's majestic. Come at me in the comments. But yeah, you can go nuts. A character who walks into battle playing bagpipes versus banging on a drum, that's a different vibe real quick. Dulcimer's not a bad one. Lute, that's your vanilla minstrel, troubadour, kind of faux medieval instrument. So I'm gonna say I know how to play the lute as well. Okay, probably much more important, skills. We're good at making music. Interestingly enough, performance might be the default choice for a bard, and I might take it just because of that. But performance is probably not gonna come up a ton, unfortunately. If you're doing a lot of downtime, you're earning your keep in town between adventures, trying to support a wealthy lifestyle or whatever, then yeah, maybe you do want to take performance. There's no bad answers necessarily. There are better ones. And in general, you want these choices to count. Just like we were talking about with language, we want to be choosing things we're going to use. Now, a bard can choose any skill, can kind of fill any gap. So this is one class where I would be curious about party composition. Am I the only person like remotely qualified to go sneaking around because everyone else is clanging around in heavy armor? Then maybe I want stealth. Is there a wizard in the party? No. Well, someone probably should have Arcana in case we're looking at some weird magical stuff. So there's a lot of ways to go here. I will say, by default, a bard is going to be probably the face of the party. We are going to be the person right in the front when we're having a social interaction. And that means I want to take either persuasion, deception, or intimidation, or a couple of those, maybe all three. I'm going to take persuasion, my ability to convince people that I'm right, and also deception, my ability to convince people that I'm right even when I am speaking out my butt, even when I am lying to their face. So these two social skills are the things that I'm going to rely on the most. I am building a character here that is going to talk their way out of situations much more than fight their way out of situations. The third skill, again, I'm going to be thinking about filling gaps in the party. Acrobatics, maybe. Like I said, Arcana is a good one. History and nature, some of these intelligence-based ones, especially depending on our subclass going forward, what kind of bard we're thinking of making. I like a character who knows things. But I'm considering doing perception as a baseline. I really want to take performance just to prove a point here that, like, hey, you can make decisions based on flavor more than characters or mechanics. But I'm going to take perception. When in doubt, perception is the check you're going to roll the most. Okay. Bardic Inspiration comes online first level, is one of, if not the most defining features of a bard. You can supernaturally inspire others through words, music, or dance. This inspiration is represented by your Bardic Inspiration die, which is a d6 to start. As a bonus action, you can inspire another creature within 60 feet of yourself who can hear or see you. That creature gains 1 of your Bardic Inspiration die. The creature can only have 1 at a time. Once within the next hour of in-game time, not real-world time, once within the next hour, when the creature fails a d20 test, attack roll, saving throw, skill check, the creature can roll the Bardic Inspiration die and add that number rolled to the d20, potentially turning the failure into a success. A Bardic Inspiration die is expended when it's rolled. Number of uses. You can confer a Bardic Inspiration die a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier. Minimum of 1. We're pumping Charisma. We want to have as many of these to hand out as we can. We get them all back after a long rest. Eventually, we get them back every short rest as well. Now, I'm not going to tell you to buy extra dice because you're probably going to get to a point where you're going to do that anyway without my encouragement. But if we're rolling out a bard, I might consider investing in a few extra, a single color that maybe a lot of other people don't have, D6s, and they're going to upgrade over time, D8, D10, D12. But if I have a D6 to hand somebody at the table, assuming we're not playing online, if I hand the player a D6, they're much more likely to remember that I've used my precious resource to help them when the time comes, when down the road they fail a check. Oh, hey, I got this D6, I got Bardic Inspiration, I can still use it. Now, I am also going to be keeping track of that because I want to create as much success for my party as possible. I want my Bardic Inspiration not to go to waste. I want to make it count. I want to feel like I'm changing the tide of battle even when I'm not involved in the current situation. That's why I like playing supports. But the The idea is that if you hand someone a d6 or whatever, a die, and it's bright yellow and they don't have a bright yellow set, then, or whatever the case may be, then they're much more likely to remember it. Also, it's cool. Again, I'm not going to encourage you to buy more dice because you are probably going to anyway. Spellcasting is the other core ability that comes online first thing, level 1, that's going to define us as a bard. We're going to get 2 cantrips, level 0 spells. We're actually starting out with 4 first level spells, only 2 slots to use for those spells though. Spellcasting is a little bit more complicated than melee, martial, swinging a sword at somebody, but I think it's worth it. If you're willing to do a little more homework and make a little more strategic decision making over time, magic users are kind of the way to go, folks. Now, bards are simpler than other classes and more restrictive than some classes because we are only learning spells as we level. Right now, we're choosing the spells, and those are the spells we're going to know. Some classes have a whole host of spells and can re-up on them every time they take a long rest. For us, we're only changing our spell list when we level up. We gain some new stuff, and we can replace 1 spell each time we level up. So we are going to be locked in, and the spell choices we make are going to be pretty darn defining about what kind of a bard we are. Now, the reason I went over and did my species already was because I am getting Firebolt and Thaumaturgy, 2 cantrips from my Infernal ancestry here. So I already have a very good damage cantrip. That's probably going to be the main thing I do ranged if I'm trying to damage a target. If I didn't have that, Starry Wisp is pretty appealing. I'm making an attack roll using my Charisma modifier, and it goes 60 feet, which is pretty standard. It does radiant damage, which not a ton of things are going to be immune to, and D8 is an okay amount of damage, and if I do hit, they're low-key fairy fired. I'm not giving anybody advantage, but that target is glowing now. It's much harder for them to get away. They turn invisible. They're still shedding dim light for 10 feet. This is just kind of cool for a magical ability, especially for a rockstar type character to be literally lighting people up. Thunderclap is also a pretty cool damaging ability. You're gonna be up next to people when it happens, so it's almost like a oopsie daisy sort of vibe. But if I'm building a sort of sonic based bard, and I don't mean speed, I mean noise, right? If I'm banging a drum and that's hurting my enemies with thunder damage, that's pretty cool. Again, we are taking Firebolt out of the gate. We're also taking Thaumaturgy. If I didn't have Thaumaturgy, I mentioned it before, Prestidigitation is a very good one. Minor Illusion as well is very cool. Those are the big 3 as far as a whole basket of very basic magical abilities that I can use in creative ways to do cool stuff. I think I might take Minor Illusion anyway. I can use it with Thaumaturgy to kind of halfway cheat and make sound and images at the same time. And again, I'm a bard, I'm a musician, I'm going for entertainer, spoilers. So like, I feel like that would help me in my stage show. You can also do a lot of cool, interesting stuff with that. So let's take Minor Illusion, and I am going to take Vicious Mockery pretty much every time I roll up a bard, because it's a very bard specific cantrip. You unleash a string of insults laced with subtle enchantments at one creature you can see or hear within range. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or take 1d6 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of its next turn. So Not a lot of damage. D6 is not a lot of damage. It's still better than my dagger again, but D6 is not a lot of damage. But psychic damage gets through most of the time. Not a ton of resistance to that. And it's a debuff, and there's not a ton of those in this game. I am getting this monster to have disadvantage. So maybe I'm handing out D20s now to the dungeon master and say, oh, when this guy rolls, I put the little D20 next to him. He's making the next attack a disadvantage. He's rolling 2 D20s. He's taking the lower one. That might turn a hit into a miss. That might turn a crit into just a vanilla hit or a miss. When that happens, people are going to be very happy. You used Vicious Mockery. It's also a string of insults laced with subtle enchantments. So go in prep. Get yourself a list of insults. Your mother smelled of elderberries. I bite my thumb at thee. All sorts of weird Shakespearean stuff, medieval stuff. Go nuts. I mean, you want to get raunchy with it, go crazy, depending on your table and who's there. There's a ton of interesting, good utility cantrips. If we're really getting beat up, maybe Blade Ward is good. That gives us a little bit of a AC buff in a sense. That's also a debuff. Attackers subtract 1d4 from the attack roll when they attack you. If we're building the kind of bard who's going to be on the front line, maybe. I will say Friends is a trap. Someone's going to be real mad at you pretty quickly. So, yeah, hold out for better, higher level enchantments. Mage Hand is always awesome. Light, especially in a party with people who don't have dark vision. I'm a big fan of Dancing Lights, even though it's objectively worse than Light. It is a concentration spell, so I'm not doing any other concentration spell while it's up. An entertainer character who can create multicolored disco ball luminosity orbs floating around, flying around, doing all sorts of tricks within 120 feet of me. It's pretty rock and roll, if you ask me. Like I said, Mage Hand, Mending, to a lesser degree, but it's clutched sometimes. Message. There's a lot of useful things. This is a difficult choice to make. And again, in the future, you're going to have access to more eventually, but these are kind of core abilities that you won't be changing very often, if at all. So if someone else is rocking Minor Illusion in the party, no one's got Mage Hand, maybe I'll take Mage Hand. My philosophy here is mostly diversity. I am not taking a bunch of different damage cantrips. I'm going to take Minor Illusion, which kind of overlaps a bit with my Thaumaturgy, I admit. And in fact, you know what? For new players, let's take Mage Hand. Mage Hand is amazing. Unless you have a Arcane Trickster Rogue in the party and they're doing it better than you, you're not going to be upset that you have the ability to interact with objects while you're 30 feet away. You want to see if that magical button is going to explode when you push it? Be 30 feet away when you push it. What I said technically is cheating. You can't push magic stuff. But if it's just a button, or it's a lever, or you want to see if that doorknob turns, you can do that from 30 feet away. Okay, after agonizing over all of that, our first level spells are actually going to be more definitive. And again, I would recommend having a pretty clear idea of what kind of character we're making, because that's going to help guide our decision-making process here and create like a cohesive character who's on brand, on theme. There's also a lot to be said about how bards can do a lot of cool different stuff and fill gaps in the party. So let's say I don't have a cleric or druid, no one else on the roster here is doing healing. Okay, yeah, I want to show up to the party with Cure Wounds. I don't have a wizard, right? No one's doing Detect Magic. It's a pretty good one to have. Maybe I'm going to lean into more wizardy things here. For our demonstration, working in a vacuum here, I'm going to kind of cover my bases, right? We want a bunch of different kinds of spells. I'm not going to take 4 big damagey spells. I'm going to take a little bit of everything, because again, I'm preparing 4 of these. I'm going to have 4 of these that I know that I can cast on any given day, but our first day out of the tavern into the adventuring life, we only have 2 first level spell slots to cast. So some of the time we're never going to use it, and maybe, you know, we're using both of those spell slots for a single spell. So again, we want some versatility here. So I'm going to recommend Charm Person based on the kind of character I'm envisioning here. But Charm Person is I even hesitate to use the word social, but is a great way to, one, potentially short circuit a fight, stop somebody from fighting you. Two, you know, you're talking to the city guard, he doesn't want to let you into the gate. Hey, we're buds, let me in. Hey, let me borrow your keys. In an hour, he's going to realize that all happened. But until then, you guys are buds. You can't get them to do self-harm or hurt their buddies or something, but you can get a charmed person to do a lot. Alternatively, in that like social deception kind of realm is Disguise Self. I'm not going to take both of these, but Disguise Self can get you into and out of a lot of trouble, can lead to a lot of cool hijinks. I'm going to take one healing spell. Cure Wounds does more healing, but it's an action and it's touch. If I'm the main healer, it's going to be worth it to be pumping out 2d8 plus my charisma modifier to do healing. They beefed up healing this time around. That being said, if I am not the only person, if the party's not solely reliant on me doing healing, and hey, there's healer kits out there, you guys can roll a medicine check once in a while. It's not all on the magic users, baby, but I might consider taking Healing Word, again, in a vacuum, not knowing what the rest of the party is doing, because Healing Word is a bonus action. I can still do other stuff on my turn. I can't burn another spell slot, but I can do some other stuff on my turn, including Firebolt, Firebolt, Firebolt. And this is range. This is 60 feet away, so if the Barbarian or the Paladin up front is taking a ton of damage, I can give them 2d4 plus Charisma hit points back without getting up in the mix myself. So there's our first two selections. Now, again, just for vibes, just because I'm going to take this 9 times out of 10 when I'm rolling out a bard, because it's such a cool bard, especially for a tiefling bard. Ooh, Dissonant Whispers. One creature of your choice that you can see within range, 60 feet, hears a dissonant melody in its mind. Target makes a wisdom save. On a failed save, it takes 3d6 psychic damage, pretty good, and must immediately use its reaction, if available, to move as far away from you as it can, using the safest route. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage, only they don't run away from you. So the ability to create music in somebody's mind that fills them with pain and fear and runs away, yeah. Our devilish musician is taking Dissonant Whispers today. I'm considering that my main like offensive spell. I just want to hurt this thing, or we want to hurt this thing and I want this thing to run away. I want to burn down its health and take it out of combat maybe for a round. Again, there's a ton of good options here. I would take my time going through these, seeing which are going to suit your idea and your role. You know, again, maybe we want to be more of a smarty pants bard with identify. Maybe we are going full on like support caster, and we're divvying out temporary hit points with heroism. Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Let's say we rolled up a comedian or the Joker or something, or what? Anything. Maybe we're a ventriloquist, right? We carry around a creepy doll. The sky's the limit, guys. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is also a pretty good thematic take them out sort of spell. If I succeed, this enemy falls down laughing. RLFAMO. Ja, if you're Spanish. Thunderwave, again, also pretty darn cool if I'm going like rock and roll sonic boom boom war drum or electric guitar or even bagpipes. And it pushes people away if they fail their save. So if I do get into melee accidentally, I can kind of like extricate myself potentially. I'm going to recommend as our fourth pick today, Sleep. Sleep is great at low levels, especially. Eventually we're going to outgrow this. So come level 2, level 3, almost definitely by level 4, sleep is going to be the one that we are swapping out for another first level spell. Maybe we've learned that, I don't know, illusory script would really pay off in this campaign. You know, maybe there's some weird situational thing. Maybe we just need more healing or taking cure wounds, whatever. First level especially, I am taking sleep. Now, this is going to be my back in my day, get off my lawn, kids moment, but I like the old sleep better than the new sleep, but the new sleep is still pretty dope. I miss rolling a bunch of dice, but for today, this is still good. Consider taking sleep. This could change the tide of battle. All right, so there's our loadout for our bard spells. We've got our skills, we got our instruments. Let's go into background. Now, our character's background is informing a lot of how our character operates in the world, now more than ever. And I like that. I think the thing that you've been doing day in, day out is going to shape you potentially a lot more so than your heritage. Especially again, I'm seeing a very like cosmopolitan. We've been on the road, we're touring, we've been everywhere. We play the whole tavern circuit, right? I mean, being a tiefling, especially in certain settings, maybe we're treated differently for good or ill or both. But the fact that this guy is an entertainer, am I right? I mean, he's up on stage with this bow. He's an entertainer. So we're taking entertainer, strength, dex, charisma. Strength I'm not really concerned about. I'm going to take dex and charisma for my ability scores. Musician is a pretty dope feat. I get 3 more instruments. Guess what? I can play any instrument I like. If you saw me not choose, I don't know, whatever, dulcimer before, I like taking stuff that I don't even know what it means. Like this talking here, I'm taking it. And then I'm gonna look that up. But the musician feat also gives us encouraging song. As you finish a short or long rest, you can play a song on a musical instrument with which you have proficiency. And again, I have 6 of those in play. And give heroic inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus. So again, as well as I got these D6s that I can hand out for Bardic Inspiration, I can also hand out a couple D20s to start, and this is going to increase over time for heroic inspiration, and those things can stack. So again, if I was making a bard tonight, I would be filling up a bag with all of my shinies. I would show up with a ton of dice and be letting people borrow those so that they know, hey, you have inspiration here. You can roll 2 d20s and take the higher result when things really matter. It can be an attack roll, but this could be a skill check. This could be a saving throw. When the chips are down and we really need you to make this ability check, you can have heroic inspiration because I played a little ditty right as we were starting our day, and or Bardic Inspiration. They stack. So you can roll 2 d20s, take the higher one, and if you still don't make it, you can add a d6 to that. Incredible support caster stuff going on. I will say there's some other cool options here. Charlatan, off the top of my head, is also kind of the most bardy, charisma-y sorts of skills. Backgrounds, charisma, dexterity, constitution, all good choices for me. The things I'll be investing in heavily, constitution maybe less so. But it gives us the skilled feat. Hey, we get another 3 skills or tools. So yeah, maybe I want that disguise kit, for instance. If I'm trying to be the Brainiac character, I'm trying to know a little bit about everything. I'm taking Arcana, I'm taking History, maybe I'm taking Religion, that comes up a lot. So Charlatan, also a very good choice because of the skilled feat and just thematically as well. Custom background is a thing, gang. So maybe we can take the Entertainer and the skilled feat depending on how our Dungeon Master is. We're going to pick these again. I'm going to take clarinet. I used to play clarinet. Drum. What was it? Talking. And now ability scores. I'm going to do a +2/+1 this time around. I am going to put my +1 in charisma and my +2 in dexterity. We will see why in a little bit. You could make an argument for reversing those, but charisma and dexterity are the two main things I'm going to be investing in for this character. Now, within this page is where we're going to be recording a lot of other stuff about our character, sort of the soft skills, the background information, our story, what kind of a person are we? And that's going to inform how we play them. My favorite way of going about doing that is the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation, this awesome, if I do say so myself, book that I created in partnership with a lot of players playtesting it with me. So let's go roll up an entertainer. You can see based on this table of contents, there's a bunch more archetypes, backgrounds that you could choose from. So if you're using custom background, there's a ton of cool options in here. We could do our charlatan. Maybe I'm a detective. Maybe I'm an emissary. But like I said, we're going to do entertainer. We're going to keep pretty vanilla. And again, we're going to stay true to that picture as best we can. And now this is giving us, out of the gate, the ability to roll a d20 or select from a table our drive, our dream, our aspiration. What's our character's motivation? And again, that's going to inform decisions we make at the table going forward. I rolled a 7 on my d20 and I got outshine another specific performer. So right out of the gate, that's telling me I have quite the ego, and I have a challenger. Nemesis was the word I was gonna say, but that feels a little bit strong. But who knows? If I am trying to do better, I mean, maybe it's someone who came before me, right? Maybe it's some sort of historical entertainer figure I'm trying to do better. Or maybe it's my brother, my cousin, my sister. Maybe it's someone I went to bard school with, college with. There's somebody out there who I have a rivalry with. And out of the gate, as a Dungeon Master, I love stuff like that. Hey, Dungeon Master, there's an NPC out there that I have a complicated relationship with. Do with that as you will. On our D12, this is telling us our call to adventure. Why are we no longer on stage at the tavern, but we are out there living the life of an adventurer? And I got a 2. Performance shaped them as a child. Okay, so we've always known that. I mean, a performance is an entertainer, though. Performance shaped them as a child. We've always known we wanted to be an entertainer, right? We were inspired at a very early age. But maybe this piece, right? Maybe it was a puppet show about an epic battle from back in the day, or the story of an adventurer, right? A bard at that. And perhaps the original is by this person who I am trying to outshine. Maybe not, but I'm always looking to make connections here. But like, there was a formative moment as a child. And again, maybe I can just kind of sit with that, ruminate on it, go in knowing, I had an experience as a child. I saw some performance. It made me want to be an adventurer. And over time, as we learn more about the world we're exploring, the story the Dungeon Master has set for us, we can kind of plug in to that. Maybe have conversations with our Dungeon Master outside of the game between sessions. Like, what does that mean exactly? I might not know how that fits in the world, but they might have the perfect solution to that gets us both excited and makes my character much more integrated into the game. D8, potential for growth. Interesting characters change. So I can kind of lean one way, look for opportunities to develop another way. So I got 6, a big fish in a small pond, tossed into the deep end. I like that feeds into the ego trip I'm on. I'm a little braggadocio to start because I am the best fiddle player in this farming village where I grew up. and hey, we get to the city, and maybe that sparks the rivalry I have. I see someone better, right? Maybe I did grow up pretty sheltered. I was thinking we were pretty cosmopolitan. Maybe we are in that setting now, but maybe we came from, we're the biggest deal. I mean, we're the only tiefling for miles and miles and miles around. Everybody knows our name. Everybody comes to see us, throw coins in the hat. That makes us feel very special until, I don't know, maybe we get our bell rung a couple times. We see a giant for the first time. Whatever experiences we have at the table, that kind of humble us and make us a little more well-rounded over time. The next column is giving us a friendly faction that we have some sort of relationship with, and a friendly NPC that we are buds with, that we can go to for help or information potentially. Now we're definitely into territory where this is work we're doing with the Dungeon Master, perhaps during session 0 or between sessions or before the campaign even starts. D10 is going to give us a magic item or a token. So I think most tables, you're going to be fine walking in with a number 1 here, which in this case is a broken quill. A significant work to the world, or just to them, came from its worn down nib. So I have the quill that the adventuring bard entertainer who I'm trying to emulate and perhaps outshine, I've got a pen from them, which they used to wrote that song, that play that I saw as a child that shaped my entire worldview. And hey, maybe it's not actually that. Maybe I was told it's that. Maybe I know it's not that and I tell others it's that, right? Maybe I sell one of these every week to support my lifestyle. But if I walk in, oh, Dungeon Master, is it okay if I have a broken quill? They're probably going to say yes. In other situations, session 0, you can roll a d10 and get into the more powerful magical item side of things. Maybe I'm starting the game with this. Maybe I know it's out there in the world and the Dungeon Master can use it to spur me on to future further adventures. Maybe it's a quest reward. The next page in the spread is completely the Dungeon Master's domain, 99% of the time, depending on how they're running their table. You're going to be less concerned about this, but maybe you want to send this along to them saying, hey, I got this cool thing here with a bunch of antagonistic organizations, rivals and enemies, evocative locations, thematic monsters, and plot hooks, story seeds that are going to interconnect and speak directly to the kind of character I am rolling out with, so that you can get my character connected to the story, which I assure you 9 out of 10 Dungeon Masters would really love to do. We want you to care. We want your character to be invested and connected to the story that we're telling, and this does that beautifully. Link down below to get your hands on the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation, PDF or in print. Now on with our character creation. All right, we've already got our species locked and loaded here, so let's go to abilities. Now, our generation method is going to be determined by the Dungeon Master. I would say standard array is the way to go if you're not sure, if you're a beginner. I am partial to point buy. Point buy is good for those of us who like to customize and tinker a little bit more, but even if you're doing point buy, instead of starting with 8s across the board, I recommend using the standard array batch of numbers first, and then subtracting and adding. It's just a lot faster. Rolling for stats is cool, definitely, but you're going to get more variations between characters at the table, and sometimes that can lead to less fun. Some tables will house rule the heck out of it, so you're just creating stacked characters. That's less interesting to me because, and you're not going to hear this from a lot of other character creation guides, what you're bad at is equally interesting, if not more interesting, than what you're good at. So I am going to take my dump stat. I'm going to put my 8 in strength today. I like the idea of being a little more posh. Posh isn't quite the right word, but I have roadies, right? The fiddle that I carry around is the heaviest thing I interact with on a daily basis. Charisma's going to be our big one here, 15. And my secondary stat, I'm going to take Dex. Dex or Constitution. Constitution will do third. These are our old standbys, the fallbacks. Dexterity is giving me a higher initiative score, is making me harder to hit, affecting my armor class. Again, it's also the save that's probably going to come up the most. Con is giving me hit points. Now, we're at a point where we're dialing in exactly what kind of character we want to make, and I'm not telling you the best. I don't know if you can tell from all my hemming and hawing, but I'm trying to give you a ton of options here and inform you about why you would take them. So I like a smart kind of bard. I like a bard who's been around, who knows a lot of things. That conflicts a little bit with our small big fish in a small pond kind of vibe, but plus one intelligence. I'm smarter than average. That doesn't mean I'm not a genius. The wizard's got me beat hands down, right? But I have some intelligence and I have baseline wisdom. 10 isn't bad. It's a 0 modifier. It's average. That's situational awareness. You could reverse these. There's arguments to be made that I want my insight to be great, and like maybe I'm not as intelligent, I'm not as learned. I've been playing taverns and busking my entire life, right? I'm not super well educated, and there's a wizard in the party, so I don't need it. So cool. Again, bards are super versatile, and I will kind of seek my own level, fill the gaps in the party. 1, so the party as a whole is more powerful and successful, but 2, so I get more chances to shine. I'm not stepping on anybody's toes as much. So with that loadout, it's giving me a -1 in strength, not my strong suit. It's gonna be funny when I try. It's not gonna come up too much as long as somebody else is willing to carry my stuff for me. Dexterity again is a big one. +3 in dex, I'm never gonna be sad about. +1 in con, it's giving me an extra hit point every level, which is nice. +1 in wisdom, which is my perception, and my insight. If I'm trying to figure out if people are lying to me, wisdom is a good choice. Int at 0, and then boom, +3 charisma. Now there is a world where when we were building when we're selecting our abilities for the background, I only took a +1 in dexterity, and that would have given me a +2 here, but that would have pushed my total charisma to a 17, 1 away from an 18, which is a +4. So looking forward to level 4, perhaps taking a ability score increase to get me to a +4 modifier and just a better bard in general. Long term, that might be a smarter way to go, especially if we're doing a lot of damage casting spells and or forcing saves. If we're doing more utility, like there's a bard out there that's actually a lot less reliant on this modifier. So again, situational, not gonna make or break you either way, and having this +3 in dexterity is probably going to make you more likely to survive to when you could get a +4 in charisma here. So your mileage may vary. Make informed choices. There's a world where, you know, I'm an entertainer. I'm doing splits, baby. Maybe I'm doing death drops, right? I mean, this is a drag performance. My dex is through the roof. I like it. Maybe your bard is a little more staid, is not quite dancing around the stage the same way. Maybe it's just sheer charisma, right? They're an orator. They're not dodging as much. Again, we could also have beefed up our constitution to get more HP. There's a lot of choices. There's not always one singular right one, and if there is, the game's a lot less interesting. Next, all right, home stretch equipment. I'm taking the loadout, and I get another instrument. I'm gonna take that pan flute. I don't know why. I'm having a pan flute moment. I got a fiddle, I got a pan flute, very pan, very fey vibes to this tiefling for whatever reason. I mean, I got the horns. Why not? The Entertainer's Pack contains a backpack, bedroll, a bell, bullseye lantern, which is pretty sweet, 3 costumes, a mirror, which you can get real creative with if you're smart, 8 flasks of oil, which you can do a lot of destruction with, 9 days of rations, which will keep you alive, tinderbox, and water skin. So some of this stuff is flavorful. You want, if you are sleeping outside, you really want to have these things. But the lantern, okay, you have dark vision. A bullseye's lantern is still, one is a spotlight, which is why I think we're getting it as an entertainer. But 2, we're still making checks in darkness with disadvantage, even though we have dark vision. A lot of people forget that, conveniently or otherwise. So yes, we will still benefit from a light source, even though we have dark vision. Also, costumes, a mirror, flasks of oil, these are things that can do a lot of cool stuff if you think about them and are creative. We're also, as an entertainer, getting another musical instrument. My goodness, I don't even remember what, oh no, the Talkin. Here it is. It's in the expanded rules, so that could be some weird thing that DNDBeyond's given me by accident that is like very specific to Eberron or Dark Sun or some world that doesn't play in here. But I'm looking, hey, no cheating. I mean, I know a lot of you probably Googled it already, but if you know what a Talkin is, let me know how you know that in the comments, because by the time I publish this, I'll have looked it up. That's just how I work. But I'm curious if I should have known that already. I've embarrassed myself enough with my lack of knowledge on the Talkin. I got another 2 costumes. I got another mirror. I got perfume, traveler's clothes, and 11 gold pieces. I got 5 costumes, right? Maybe that never comes up. Maybe I sit and think about what kind of costumes am I rocking? How many heroes out there are doing a wardrobe change in the middle of their set break? This one is. Ooh. And starting equipment. Now, I'm going to save you a lot of trouble here. If you're playing on D&D Beyond, we're going to wield and wear this equipment that we just selected. Because if I don't hit this button, then I'm not actually wearing my light armor. My AC is not going to reflect the fact. Over time, I'm going to be looking to get studded leather armor. That's probably going to be the first big investment I make with my earnings as an adventurer, other than maybe like a healing potion here and there. The rest of this stuff I'm less worried about. I do want to use my backpack if we're talking about encumbrance. This isn't just sitting in our room at the tavern. We are wearing this. That weight's accounted for. But again, 90% of tables, 99% of tables, not worried about that. Okay, and that's it. What's next? We could export to PDF, print out a character sheet if we're gonna go play at a table, or we can rock right off of our laptop or tablet, and we can play on D&D Beyond, which I know is a popular choice for a lot of players at my table. I like rolling physical dice. I like having a character sheet. But we live in the future. I'm not hating. You want to use D&D Beyond, especially if you're playing online anyway. Cool, go for it. I will say that 5 makes me rethink whether or not I'm happy playing on D&D Beyond. I rolled a 10 for my firebolt, so not so great. I will say, if you're using D&D Beyond, you want to be conscious of your spells are over here, your slots are over here. We could do a whole other video on managing and using magic, but that's all here under spells, inventory, yada yada yada. All of this stuff. We could do a whole tour, but it's fairly self-explanatory. We're sitting on 9 hit points and 14 AC. Not super comfortable at level 1. Pretty fragile. We don't want to get hit. But again, unless no one else is up there on the front line, that's probably not our job. If no one else is up there, then eventually we can build out this character. Speaking of building out this character, let's level up. Once we hit level 3 and select our subclass, we're really dialing in what kind of bard we're doing. At level 2, we're going to have 15 hit points, and we gain expertise in 2 skills of our choice. So we are doubling our proficiency bonus on skills that we already have. So I don't know how much we've learned from playing through first level, but we've got a decent look at our party. We can tell maybe what's missing. If we are the sneaky boy, maybe we want expertise in stealth. But right off the top of my head here, I'm going to take Deception and I'm going to take Persuasion. I am just going to be doubling down on being the face of the party. I am driving the social side of the game. That's why I played a bard. That's my bread and butter. Am I going to make room for other people to participate? Of course, because I'm a good guy like that. But when the chips are down, you want me talking to the quest giver to get a bigger reward, or talking to the monster to let us go. Now, this is a big choice that's really going to define our character. However, it's a little less impactful because we get this awesome feature at level 2 as well. Jack of all trades. You can add half your proficiency bonus, round down. We always round down in D&D, very few exceptions. We always round down. You can add half your proficiency bonus to any ability check you make that uses a skill proficiency you lack, and that doesn't otherwise use a proficiency bonus. So right now, I'm adding 1 to every skill in the game. I can attempt to do anything now. All of those, intelligence-based knowledge skills, and I was like, well, maybe if you don't have wizard or whatever, I'm getting a +1 to religion and history and all of that stuff. And that's only going to increase as my proficiency bonus increases, as I level up. And I get that for free. I'm not selecting which skill that happens in. It's all of my skills, plus all sorts of other stuff. Any ability check that I don't get a skill proficiency in, now I get half of 1. Pretty freaking great. Down the road, when we level up to 3, now we're selecting our Bard subclass. And we kind of skipped over the fact that I've been adding spells this whole time too. Maybe I'm switching out Wisdom. I'm getting 2nd level spell slots at level 3, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. I just wanted to keep this pretty user-friendly and basic, and I know it's been very long already. So we're going to dive into level 3 in a different video. For now, if you have questions about basic Bard builds, level 1, level 2 stuff, let me know in the comments. I do my best to be responsive in a timely manner. There's also a lot of other people in this community who are smart and funny and interesting who might have advice for you. So let us know where you're from. I really do mean that. It's pretty cool. And let me know if you have any questions. If you like this video, hitting like and subscribe does help me a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I see you next time. Until then, be kind and have fun.